Okay, I've been incredibly unwell the past couple days, and I've not really been able to or wanted to work on much more video content. But I'm gonna try to chug through some of these. I'm gonna get a couple videos out. So first, I wanted to really clarify and talk about what you can do with these Hooligan mix-ups, specifically Oki, not like just using Hooligan in neutral or whatever or in other situations, but Hooligan Oki setups. Like I said, I think the best ways to go into it are off of this target combo where you can charge it, or you can leave it go and do an uncharged version, which has some benefits. Or if you do like a hit like that, you can do that into a charge. You can stay same side. Unless some of these, if you're doing them in mid-screen, might change a bit if the opponent recovers in place. Usually speaking, if the opponent recovers in place, it might mess up some of your setup. Oh my god, my hands are so sweaty. Fuck me. So, some of these can be changed under certain circumstances, but generally speaking, if they get up normally, you can create more of a threatening left-right, because if you try to do a left-right like here, you can get up on this side and be like +7, that's the best, and then one frame later, the first frame that you'll be side switch, you can get like +6. I was practiced with it, but now I'm not getting it. There we go, +6. Whereas if they neutral tech, you can get a much heavier meaty on both sides, but anyways. Neither here nor there. The point is, generally speaking, assuming the opponent's going to back tech, and these are the situations where you can get this set up off of. You can do that as well. You can do that. If you get a DI punish counter, if for whatever reason you wanted to, you can do that. If you get a DI wall splat in the corner, you can get that. Those are the main ways that I would probably think about going into this. Now, in mid-screen, generally speaking, if you get the charged version, you'll usually, if you just go into the slide, you will side switch, which means that if you do this, you generally can't have a really good overhead mix-up. Just barely, you're not able to clip them. So the main value of using this as the mix-up is that you can get the meaty slide, which block after first hit. You build back a lot of drive gauge for doing any of these routes, so let's say you do that. Slide builds you back a ton of drive gauge. On block, on hit, whatever. +2, you can do whatever. You also have the option of meaty throw. Meaty stand medium punch. If you time it properly, it should be 0. There we go, 0 on block. Or same side, and you can go for like a stand heavy punch. Generally speaking, I think like the right option here would be stand heavy punch light knuckle. Therefore, you can see if it's safe on block. Frame trap on hit. Stand heavy punch drive rush or stand heavy punch light knuckle is a safe option. You'll be plus on hit, you'll get a bit of a little chunk of damage. It's not as easy as you would think. If you switch it around and try to play the character that's, like, reacting to this, not as easy as you might expect to try to, in a pinch, to try to block these correctly. You can, if you're paying attention to it and you've practiced it. However, one other benefit of this is that it's very awkward to input an EXDP against this setup, because they're passing over your head. Very, very awkward to input an EXDP properly against this. So, beyond that, you also have uncharged Hooligan, which the other benefits are you can use it in mid-screen, and so long as the opponent back recovers, you won't side switch. If they do back recover, you'll get something like this. Etc. So it is possible to turn that into a more effective left-right, but generally speaking, if your opponent doesn't know about that and you do this in mid-screen, you can get a same side high-low mix-up. The slide will be extra meaty, so you'll be +7 on block, and you'll be able to get extra conversions on hit that you wouldn't normally be able to get, such as that. Or I fucked it up, but you get the idea. The other benefit of doing the uncharged Hooligan instead of the charged Hooligan is that if you manually time it and you're confident in your timings, you can get a 0 or a +1 on block overhead, so you don't have to be -2. Of course, the weak point of doing this is that it's harder to be in throw range. As you can, that is the best you can time it, +3 and almost in throw range, so you can frame trap them with whatever, but if you want to call it a parry, you have to do something that's technically minus and with boost buttons. And at different distances, you can drop earlier and then meaty them with like a different button at more space. In the corner, which is where this setup gets very valuable, if you're confirming off of lights, I think the best way to go into this, even if the opponent is standing, is to do that. So drive rush, light, micro walk, light punch, and then the back medium punch target combo. Micro walk into that. That will allow you to build slightly more super on the setup and make sure that the combo lasts slightly longer so that your drive gauge penalty will not be in effect as soon as the combo ends. So Hooligan setups are not only are they theoretically quite valuable in just their ability to mix, but they build Cammy a ton of drive gauge back. No matter all the things you do, slide on block, you land the mix-ups, whatever, you regenerate drive gauge like crazy. And all of the setups, especially in the corner, go into themselves, because you will always be able to convert into back medium punch, or if you land a regular slide, you can combo off of it with a DP, or if you still want to regenerate more drive gauge, you can go for another slide. So, your options off of this. Drop throw. If they parry, you get, obviously, the punish counter parry. Or punish counter throw. You can drop and get a meaty crouch heavy punch, so you can combo off that without a counter hit into stand fierce or back roundhouse. If they hold up. If you're incredibly confident in your timing, you can get a better low confirm. There. If you time it perfectly, you can get a meaty crouch light kick, which will allow you to get more damage and more reward in general for your low conversion. by going into the back medium punch target combo into full damage. You can, of course, do the overhead. This will be -2 if they block it. One value that you get from this that you won't get from slide is that you can time this whenever you want. So you can either do it meaty, or you can do it at a slight delay. So you can change the timing against the threat of perfect parries. You can drop and shimmy. And then off of this setup in particular, if you're doing the charging version, now your opponents won't all know this, but in case they do, this is true that if you go for the charge slide or the charge overhead here, they will get punished by DI. Now, you can punish DI pretty heavily if you drop and do a meaty or whatever, something that's safe to DI. Or multi-hitting, you can do that. But this is one of these situations where doing the uncharged version is valuable. Not only because you get more or less the same reward off of slide, because all you can do is get a DP. You get mostly the same setups. Like, you get to do, you know, your overhead. You get almost the same amount of damage and options off of it. Your slide is, you know, it hits about there. Your fast fall is not as good. It's not as quick when you do the uncharged version, so you need to cancel into the fast fall earlier if you want to do meaties or meaty throws or whatever. But one other benefit, in addition to the fact that you can time this to be, you can time the overhead so that it's plus on block. And so you don't have to be -2 off of it. But another benefit is that these ones are totally safe to DI. Etc. You can also do, so not all setups are exactly the same. For instance, if you were to get like some normal into a drive rush confirm into stand confirm into back roundhouse, and if for whatever reason you didn't want to just take the damage off of this and you wanted to get the setup, if you do this, it's actually a different timing. So your charge slide will low profile the DI. With huge reward. It's the same story as if you do this. Don't cancel, do an EX1, you'll low profile the DI. One benefit of the EX as opposed to the charge, even though they are functionally very similar, is that the EX1 you can get higher reward off of the slide. Because since it's an EX move, you can cancel it into level 2. Another thing that you can do, if you do charge Hooligan into immediate drop, is your plus 17. Now, the thing in this game is that this would be better if you were plus 18. See, the thing about this game, right, is that plus 18 and 19 is a nice timing because... what's something that's like plus 18 or 19? There. Right, I remember. That's plus 18, and I think... That's plus 18? Yeah. So if you do these setups... You can do a DI, and what this is good for is that if the opponent does a if you're plus 18 or 19 and the opponent does a wake up whatever, with the exception of Ken, I forgot that this singularly does not work on Ken, but if the opponent does a wake up uppercut, this DI, when you're plus 18 or 19, has the advantage of armoring through the 1 or 2 hits, and then you can punish it, and this works against every DP in the game except for Ken's, to my knowledge. But the other benefit, when you're specifically plus 18 or plus 19, is that it will also... So it's late enough that it will still absorb and armor through the uppercut, but it's early enough that the opponent also can't move out of the way. So if the opponent was to jump, the DI would still clip him. Same with backdash. If the opponent does like a wake up button or like a wake up whatever or a delay tech or something, they'll probably also get hit by this. So this is a very convenient mid-screen thing to do in some cases. Plus 17, not quite good enough if the opponent, as you can see, if this was 1 frame better, the DI would clip him. But other than that, it's not a bad way to get a meaty that is safe, that will beat EXDPs, but won't lose to like throw or wake up buttons necessarily. It's more of a risky factor than some of the other things you can do. But one other advantage is that there's a difference in this game. First I need to explain there's a difference in this game between tap parry and hold parry. So this is like a habit that you can identify from your opponent. If you ever see them parry on defense on wake up, you can identify whether they're tapping parry or holding parry. Now the main difference is if they tap parry, there's a unique effect where when you're coming out of a parry, as you probably know, you can block, but you can't do anything else. And so, as you can see in my command bar, the purple is the parry state, and then the blue is the recovery. So parry will have 29 frames of the recovery, and then the least amount of parry timing is 8 frames if they tap parry. During that 29 frames of recovery, you can block, but if you fail to block, like a cross-up or an overhead or a low or something, you will get punish countered. The other factor that this has is that this is the only state in the game in which you can block, in which you can get wall splatted by DI without being able to do anything. So if the opponent... Okay, I'm going to tap parry on defense, and then I'm going to have the opponent... I'm going to record him doing like a whatever. There. So if I tap parry on wake up, mashing DI doesn't come out. If you tap parry and you let it go, the remaining 29 frames of recovery, there is nothing you can do against DI. You will get wall splatted. So that's another benefit of this, is that if you're worried about the opponent trying to parry your high-low mix-up, which they probably will do, you can beat it with throw. And if they tap parry, you can beat it with DI. Honestly, if they hold parry, you can also probably beat it with DI. You just have to do a slightly later DI. The other advantage is that if they tap parry, there's a way that you can take advantage of this with a delayed overhead. Now this generally works better when you do the uncharged Hooligan instead of the charged Hooligan, because you can do a meaty overhead at there, but then you can also do a super delayed overhead like that. Really delayed. So if they tap parry, that means so long as you're not within the 8 frames of them getting up in the parry state. Let's see if we can get it outside of 8 frames. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there we go. So that would be outside of the range of his parry, of his tap parry, and if he comes out of tap parry blocking low, he will get punish countered by that. If I demonstrate, let's say block, Block after first hit, crouching block only, wake up, tap parry. So right now he's doing this. So if I were to do that, he would perfect parry it. If I would do a perfectly meaty overhead, he would perfect parry it. There we go. But if I do a delay overhead, punish counter. The other value is that since it's like a delay of like 8 or 9 frames, it also has a decent propensity to punish delay tech. Catches them jumping out too. Now, technically, you could also beat the... You could beat the tap parry or hold parry with that, EX or regular. This is probably kind of gambly, but this is part of... You should probably do this, because even if the opponent doesn't like tap parry on their wake up, to try to parry the mix-up, you can then go for another mix-up again. You can punish them for whiffing a throw if they do a delay tech on their wake-up. Or, if you see anything else, it'll go over a lot of delay crouch buttons if they do a delay, or wake-up low forward, delay, whatever. Or you can just go for, you can just run the mix. So you can do this if you're worried about parry or something. You can go for another Hooligan just there and then try to open them up like that, and it beats a number of options that they might do on wake up. And of course, you have the option of doing EX Knuckle in the corner. Cammy's one of the only characters that can make a cross up like this. You can choose how early or how late to do it. This, generally speaking, at most timings that you do this, this will beat EXDPs that the opponent does. If the opponent, again, tap parries, if they tap parry but they don't react to your cross-up in time and don't block it, you'll get a punish counter. But this generally loses to delay throw. Now, if you do this too late, this will make it harder for them to input an EXDP on wake up if you do it, like, early. If you do this too early, the DI will autocorrect way harder than anything else the opponent does. In case you want to ask, you might think that, say, you do EX whatever, the EX overhead will still lose to DI, and you might think that, oh, if it's an EX move, you can cancel on the level 2. This will always whiff. Under any circumstance, if you're doing this against like a DI or something, it will always whiff. It will never save you. Other than that, you can, of course, cancel the slide into level 3. By the way, you also have, and this is good in general, and it's good against delay tech, tap or hold parry, or DI, which is neutral jump or forward jump. And this is also good for building your drive gauge, because you could do the slide on block, and that'll be, you know, +2 or whatever, and it builds you a lot of drive gauge on block, but there's also a risk of getting DI'd if it's the charge version, or perfect parry back throw, punish counter back throw, whatever. So this is like a universal thing for every character. Doing neutral jump when the opponent's wake up is really good for like shimmying the opponent or otherwise stealing a turn if they fail to anti-air you, but also regenerating drive gauge, because you waste a lot of time, and if they anti-air you, you get knocked backwards, but you're not losing any drive gauge. So the only way that you can lose drive gauge from like a neutral jump or something is if you get punish counter DP'd. This will only happen with DPs, but the way that you can avoid getting punish counter DP'd is, one, empty jump. Don't press a button unless you're confident. 2, press a button later. 3, use whatever jump-in button has the most active frames, because you can only be punish countered once your active frames have ended. So the more active frames your jump-in button has, the less likely it will be that the DP will hit after the end of all of those active frames and thus trigger the punish counter, which will take your drive gauge. See? Now, Cammy's jump heavy punch, and she has a... Like, look at Ken. Like, okay, for example, Ed can get DP punish countered really easily because all of his jump-ins are fucking terrible and have no active frames. Jump Fierce, 4 active frames. 2 active frames. 3 active frames. 5, and that one's not really usable. It's a jump jab. It's kind of weird. 6, this is like his best one. His best, like, normal jump-in is this thing. 2 active frames. Terrible. Where, go back to Ken, all of his are like 6 or 7. 7, 6, 6, 6, 4, 7. Neutral jump, 4. But that one's a weird one that doesn't count. This makes jumping light kick the safest for Cammy to do jump in, to neutral jump and do. Because 10 fucking active frames on this button. That's pretty good. 8 active frames on this, but they can duck it. So yeah, light kick, king shit. Let's see if it's even physically possible to punish counter this. Jump in. I don't think so. There we go, damn. 1 frame away from getting hit.